We are live. Okay. Yay. All right, we'll still wait a couple minutes. What time is it? All right, hello. You're in the right place. Are you on your own?
I'm not sure.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
All right.
Oh shoot, that's what I told him, that I forgot to bring them in my purse. Do you want to grab them?
Is he here?
Hello. Hello. Just want to make sure everyone finds the right place. I know it's slippery.
I know, you just bring her in there with you and tie the leash up.
Oh, so you can use the QR codes for these. This is for to sign up for the Westminster College Fair. And then that's for the list of for the WUI information. Salman, should I turn this set of lights on or no? Yeah? Okay. Okay, I think we'll get started. So tonight is being live broadcast. You probably saw my emails about that. So I think any sound a lot of sound in here they'll be able to hear. So just keep that in mind as we go through the presentation. Is that right, Salman? Yeah, okay. All right. So this is the first time I've ever done it where there's like people listening in from far away. So it's a little different for me. I guess it should just be the same, but it feels different. But welcome and thank you for coming to Applying to College Tonight 2025-26. It's kind of crazy that already here we are in September planning for applying to college. But crazy thing is colleges keep on moving up their early deadlines, and so we just seem to have to start earlier every year. So here we are. But it's an exciting time. I hope you are excited, but I know a lot of students are feeling kind of nervous right now and feeling like maybe they're behind the process or the curve, and that is not the case. So hopefully tonight will help you feel calm and feel like you know what next steps need to be taken and all of that. So I'm Marva Lewis, by the way. I'm a school counselor and I'm the college advisor. This is my 4th year doing college advising here, and I've worked as a school counselor for, 16, 17 years now. So anyway, I'm feeling more and more confident every year in my ability to help a wide variety of students find what they want to do. So hopefully that will be the case for your student as well. So I want to tell you a little bit about where your students are so far in the process of applying to college, because they actually know quite a bit at this stage. What's happened so far is I've been in all the English classes this year, and I have, yeah, come on in, and I have presented to the students on first how to use Naviance, also how to, they've created a Common App account and they've linked it to Naviance. So what does that even mean? We use a system, and a student information system called PowerSchool. Naviance is part of PowerSchool. And so Naviance is able to pull information from PowerSchool, like the students' transcripts and GPAs and all of the information that's needed to communicate with colleges. So Naviance is the primary way that I am able to send information to colleges, and again, what they want to see are the students' transcripts, they want to see our school profile, they want to see the student's current schedule, things like that. So Naviance is the way, the only way that I'm able to send information to the colleges that your student is going to apply to. So it's a really critical piece of the application process. It's also the place where students list the colleges where they're applying. So it's critical that your student keeps it up to date. And they all should know how to access it. If you talk to your student and they don't seem to know, please have them come see me and I can show them. But I have been in all the English classes to tell them how to do that. The other place where they are is they should be writing their college essay right now. For the majority of English classes, this is an assignment that they will be doing as part of their first essay in English. So they've heard from me and they've heard from their teachers. The teacher will give them feedback. It's not that long. It's 650 words. So, and they pretty much pick a topic of their choice. Also, the Common App, which I'll talk about in a minute, gives them a choice of topics as well. So they should be, pretty far into writing their college essays. And I always tell them the more people that they can have look at the essay to give them feedback, the better. So maybe you could even offer if they're willing to share it with you. And of course, no AI. No AI. It really is best if it's, it's told from their authentic selves, and a story or an experience that's true for them that really can't be told by anyone else, including AI. So that's where they are right now. Not all colleges do require a college essay, and sometimes when students say, well, I don't need to write one because the school where I'm applying doesn't require one, or I'm not going to college, I think it's just a good exercise to go through anyway. A part of self-reflection, but also you can use it for maybe scholarships or job interviews, that kind of thing. So it's just a good process to go through. I mentioned the Common App. The Common App is separate from our student information system. It lives out here separately. Most students have created an account in the Common App. The reason why it's called a Common App is it's a one application that can be sent to thousands of schools. While the majority of Utah schools do not all use the Common App, many out-of-state schools do. So if your student is applying out of state, chances are they'll need to have a Common App account and use that. Come on in and have a seat, it's fine. They'll need to use that to apply to many out-of-state schools. An important part right now is that students should be finalizing, or you as a family should be finalizing the list of schools where they want to apply to. And there is no magic number. If the school where they want to go is a safety school for them, meaning that they'll get in no matter what, then one school is fine. But if you're a family where you want to have a lot of options and going out of state is important, applying to multiple schools may be what you're thinking, and that's fine too. But the most important thing at this stage within the next month or two is to make sure that you get your list pretty solid, because there is a fair number of research that goes into narrowing down your list and really knowing what is what are the most important criteria, and the bigger that list is, the more difficult it is to kind of get a handle on it. So really spend some time early on, getting the list fine-tuned. You want a selection of safety schools and like middle or target schools, and then a reach school or two if that's what you want to do. It really is a family decision that has a lot of factors involved, not the least of which is money. College is a huge investment, probably the second biggest investment to maybe a mortgage. It's a lot of money. So there's no, it's important to talk about it as a family so that everyone's on the same page. So finalizing your list of colleges and making sure that they are current in Naviance and the Common App. You can have your students show you, they can open up their accounts, show you what's in there so you can kind of see what they see as well. Let's talk a little bit about the FAFSA. It's had a bumpy few years. They redesigned it and they weren't able to launch it on time. And then last year there were still some bumps in the road. But this year they seem to think they have the kinks worked out, and that it will in fact open on October 1, which is good news. That's when it used to open back a few years ago. It does stand, the acronym stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And I think the biggest feedback I get every year is parents will say, well, there's no way we will qualify for anything. Why bother? And I understand that, and in the end, it's your decision whether to apply or not. But I will say that some scholarships do require a FAFSA, and one example of this is the Opportunity Scholarship, which is a Utah-based scholarship. It's not based on need, it's based on merit, but they require that families do the FAFSA anyway. So, and I'll talk more about the Opportunity Scholarship in a minute, but my point with that is that you may not know what you might need the FAFSA for, so it can't hurt to fill it out. It's supposed to be pretty straightforward. They've made some things easier this year. I was trying to, last year there was a delay between when the student created their account and when the parent could create theirs, but now it's supposed to be instant account verification, which really will simplify it. And then there's supposed to be an easier process for the student to invite the contributor, which is the other name for the parent who is paying for it, contributor. So, and I can answer more questions about FAFSA at the end, but we are having a FAFSA completion night or a FAFSA boot camp. It's on October 16th. And more information to come, but it's basically a work session where you come, you bring your computer and work on starting the FAFSA, and there are people here that can help you. It's not a presentation, it's you come ready to work, and if there are problems, we try to work it out. So we will host that on October 16th. Okay, I think that's what I wanted to say about that. And so the other thing is I think it's important to stress that what's right for one student may not be right for another. And I think sometimes students feel like they need to do what their friends are doing, but there are many paths to a successful career, and not all of them involve going to a traditional four-year university. We have a variety of excellent, two-year colleges, technical schools that prepare students for excellent paying trades and the skilled trades that pay very well. And so there's a lot of options with that too. And I'm able and willing and hope to be able to be helpful in that regard as well. So again, many different paths to a successful future. And so I'm happy to work with you on that. I think getting factors that are important to you and your student kind of solidified early on is important. My feeling from talking to a lot of students and also from having gone through this process last year with my son is that a lot of what sometimes comes, their priorities are coming more from either emotions or from just a sense of what my friends are doing or where they're going, and the factors that really matter, like, location and cost, and do they have the programs that my student wants to study, and those kinds of more practical factors sometimes get overlooked. So I think it is important to have a discussion at home about the most important factors for you. Like for us, we wanted not to have to change airplanes to get to where, for him to get home. We wanted a direct flight. I mean, those are all kinds of things to think about. So, get kind of solid on those factors, and that can help narrow it down. Let's see. Another really great source of information is the college fair at Westminster, and I left a couple signs up. They have a scan code on it to sign up for the fair. It is on the 27th of September. It's at Westminster, and they have 30, 40 colleges that will be there from all over the country. In fact, there's UBC, University of British Columbia, will be there as well. And even if there isn't a school on the list that appeals to you, it's a great opportunity to just visit with college reps, see what they have to say, and it's just more information to help you make a decision. And it also it's also a way to see, is there something else out there that we haven't thought of or that we didn't know about? So I really urge you to take advantage of that opportunity. It's the biggest college fair that we have in Utah, and again, it's just great. It may be a school that you're really interested in which case you fill out a card, and then they know that you've expressed interest in their school, which also kind of helps your application. As you go along, making sure that as schools maybe you lose interest in a certain school, make sure to delete it in Naviance. And as schools come up that you might want to apply to that you haven't thought of, always remember to add it in Naviance. That's where you need to keep your complete list. So it's kind of an evolving process, and you might add schools, all the way up through, December or January. So, just make sure to keep that list up to date, and keep in mind what is most important to you in terms of what you want out of a college. I really like the idea of using a spreadsheet. I have a spreadsheet shell, I guess you could call it, that I would be more than happy to share with anyone. But we were able to capture information like the size of the school, the size of the city, does the school have the major of, that we were interested in, the cost, all kinds of, all the factors that you might want to consider when looking at colleges, you can put in a spreadsheet. And I think it's a good way to kind of get an objective look at all the different options out there. So I think that's an excellent tool to use as you're looking at colleges. A really important thing to keep in mind are deadlines. Colleges are pretty solid on that. So if you miss the deadline, a lot of times it's just like, we're very sorry. Maybe you'll have to just apply regular decision, or I'm sorry you just missed the deadline. They're a lot more forgiving if a transcript doesn't come in right on the time, right on time from me, than it is for you to get your application in late. So you need to make sure that you're keeping track of your deadlines. It's good to do some research on that particular school. For example, what is their average GPA, and where does your GPA fit with that, so that you kind of know what are the chances of me getting into that school. Just for an example of how important it is to have safety schools, I had a really good friend of mine whose daughter graduated a couple of years ago, And in her college search, she was pretty heavy on reach schools, and her one safety school was the University of Utah. Well, in the end, that's pretty much what it came down to in terms of where she got in, and really she didn't want to go to the U at all anyway. So she just had it on there, applied there, got in, but that's not really where she felt she would be happy. And so she didn't, the point of the whole story is that she did not have enough safety schools on her list. So you only need one safety school as long as that's a school where you would be happy going. So that's, kind of one way to look at it. So just make sure you have a good selection of schools, especially if you are applying to multiple schools and if you're applying to multiple reach schools. Let's see. Just want to go over a lot of the language that you'll probably hear as you start going to different, maybe visiting schools or hearing what college admissions representatives have to say, and also that will help you with, advising your own student about different parts of the application. So the first three vocabulary words have to do with when you're going to apply to a school. A lot of schools offer early action. It's also sometimes called a priority deadline. And it's where you can apply earlier, and it's usually before Christmas break. You apply earlier, you find out earlier, but there's no commitment. You can still have up to May 1 to make a decision. So in a lot of ways, it's win-win. You find out earlier, you don't have to commit, you can wait till your other options come in, and you've just got that out there as, I know that I've got this as an option, and then you can just wait. Early decision, on the other hand, really should only be used in a situation where you could say to yourself, if I got in, I could go there. I could afford it. We are 100% on board with going to that school, because if you apply early decision and you get in, you're committed, and you have to agree that you will withdraw all of your other applications that are out there. So it's binding, and so that's important to know. And again, if there's a school that you want to go to, your family supports it, your family can pay, afford it, all of that, then, by all means, but definitely know that there are strings attached to that. A regular decision deadline is usually from January 1 on, and there's no downside to it. It just means that you find out a little bit later. If you apply in January, you're probably not going to find out till mid or end of February. So it's less time than early action, but it works too. There's nothing wrong with regular decision. Many schools, especially in Utah, have what's called rolling admissions. So admissions are ongoing. In fact, you could apply right now at Utah State and probably get an answer in a couple of weeks, or you could wait and apply in April and get an answer in a couple of weeks. So they just have ongoing admissions, and many schools do have rolling admissions, which is nice too. So the next test optional has to do with standardized testing, ACT or SAT. As you know, when COVID hit and there was no ability to test, a lot of schools suspended requiring ACT or SAT test scores, and that has continued. The vast majority, I would say, of colleges do not require, they're test optional still, and some have adopted it permanently. But it isn't all. So some of the Ivy League schools have gone back to requiring test scores, Dartmouth, Harvard, and some more. So you should definitely check the school where you're applying to make sure that they don't require test scores, especially if you don't intend to submit it. But know that most schools are still test optional, and what I tell families is that unless it's going to help your application, don't submit your score. And the only way to know if it's going to help your application is to check the college's website and see what their average score is, right? So if you got a 28 and their average score is a 28, seems like, reasonable idea to submit your score. But if you had a 25 and their average is a 28, it may not really help you out. So if they don't require it, then why send it? Another thing that ACT scores can do for you, and you can wait and submit it after you get in, is to help you place into maybe a higher English class or a math class. So there are several uses of standardized test scores for college. So it's just something to think about. But I think the good news is because it's test optional, it's win-win. If you do really well and you test well and it helps your application, awesome, that's great. If it doesn't, well, there's a lot of schools where that's not going to harm you. And in fact, in California, the UC schools and the Cal State schools don't even take them at all. So there is that as well. The Common App, I've talked a lot about this, and again, it's an application that you fill out once and you can send to multiple schools. So it's nice if you are applying to a lot of schools, especially out-of-state schools. And your students are probably going through the process right now of filling it in. And there's information about you, your level of education, you meaning parents, your level of education, and a variety of maybe family background questions. So your student may be coming to you to ask, some things for the Common App. So that's just kind of what that's about. And it is linked to Naviance if your student was present the day we did that in class. So again, if they don't seem to know what you're talking about, it could be that they were absent, in which case they should come and see me. The accounts need to be linked so that the schools that they apply to, the transcripts can be sent there so that they can talk to each other. The Beehive app, this is a really great thing to know about if you are planning to apply to the U, and that's about it. The Beehive app is the University of Utah's own application. I think maybe some other Utah schools are using it, but it allows you to apply directly off the University of Utah's website. It's a short and pretty easy application process. They don't require an essay. So basically, I would say anyone that's got a 3.5 or better, that doesn't want to do an essay, that knows they want to go to the U, it's an easy, fast and easy way to apply there. And last year, students were getting answers from the U within a couple of weeks. So they're trying to roll out and admissions notifications, earlier and faster for students, especially through the Beehive app. And I can answer more questions about that later if you have more. So with the U, it's either the Beehive app or the Common App. Okay, letters of recommendation. I've talked about this with the students. There's a way in Naviance to request them from teachers, but the first step is always to talk to the teacher in person first, ask them if they'd be willing to write a letter of recommendation, and then give them, we like to say 30 days. Students should know well in advance what their deadlines are, and so giving teachers that advance notice is really helpful because a lot of our teachers end up getting asked by many, many, many students. So for them to be able to have the time to really write a thoughtful and well-researched letter of recommendation, the more notice that you can give them, the better. So once you've talked to the teacher in person, I've told the students this, talk to them in person, and then there's a way to go into Naviance and request the letter in Naviance. And the advantage of that is the teachers get reminders that the recommendation is due. The college essay, we've talked about that. It's required for many colleges and also scholarship applications. And again, each student should be working on that right now. A cumulative GPA is the average of all of Juan Diego's grades. Since they started here. So let's give the example of a student that started at Juan Diego, maybe left for a year and came back for the remainder 2 years, or a student that came in their sophomore year. Only the grades earned at Juan Diego will be used in their GPA. So just so that you're aware of that. And it is, the GPA that we report is unweighted. The class size of your graduating class is 170, and if an application asks, we do not rank students. The last thing that you may not be as familiar with is what's called the school profile. A school profile is a two-pager with facts and figures about our school. And what it's used for is so that colleges can be familiar with our offerings, the size of our student body, what we offer in terms of AP, concurrent enrollment, and honors classes, a little bit about our capstone program, our service requirements. And I think what it really tells us that Juan Diego, has a high expectations. We have higher requirements for high school graduation. That way, when a college is looking at a student's transcript, they have our school profile, and they can kind of see how the student's academic record stacks up against what the offerings of Juan Diego, of what we have to offer. So I think it gives them the greater context of where the student went to high school. So it's also an important piece of the entire application. One other thing I wanted to say about the essay, it actually has to do with the sections on college applications where there might be an essay, but then there's a section called additional information. This can be a really helpful section for students if they, somewhere along the line, maybe hit a, bad patch, grades went down for whatever reason. The additional information section can be used to explain anything in the application that you would like to explain. Maybe there's 1D and the rest of the grades are A's and B's, or 1C and the rest are straight A's. Anything that you want to explain or you think deserves explanation. Maybe you worked 30 or 40 hours a week when a parent lost a job, or you have child care responsibilities at home. Anything like that that you'd like to explain can be done so in the additional information section, which is typically about 250 words long. So it's not a super long, it's not a lot of room, but at least you have a chance to explain anything in your application that you feel like you would, want to expand on. Just again to kind of, just to summarize the importance of Naviance and the Common App, is every student has an account, and at this point they should know how to use it. It's linked to PowerSchool and to the Common App, and it's used for submitting all required school documents, the transcripts, the student report, the school profile, and recommendations. So this is probably the most important thing, parents, for you to be monitoring and asking your student about is this up to date? Are you communicating with Mrs. Lewis? Are the deadlines correct? What you see in there, what should be in there? And another, I like to tell people too, while this really is your student's journey, I like to maybe give the example of the student driver and the driver's ed instructor. So your student is kind of like the student driver, they're learning this process and navigating all of these different parts of college applications. And you're the instructor who is watching, from the seat over, and if the car is starting to veer off the road, you're there ready to, try to ride it back onto the road. Or if, your student is about to rear end another car, you can hit the brake. So yes, it's their process and their journey, but you do need to kind of be, watching to make sure that, they're meeting the deadlines, because, that these are important deadlines and they're hard and fast. Colleges don't have a lot of wiggle room where that's concerned. So that's kind of your role. I think students need to have ownership in the process. Otherwise, you're doing all the work, and they need to have some skin in the game as well. Okay, the ACT, we are offering it here. No, we're not offering it. The word isn't quite offer. Students will be taking it in the school day on October 14th. It's the paper and pencil version, and it's the real thing. The students do not need to register ahead of time. The scores should be available within a couple of weeks, maybe 3, so in plenty of time for November deadlines, hopefully. Study, prepare for that. It's a good opportunity to take it for free. The other, the ACT has undergone some changes. The science section is now optional. I think I was not able to get a clear answer on whether that will be a part of the test this fall. I think it will be, but it is the paper pencil version. And in addition, there are some additional ACT dates, October 18th, the 13th, and the December 13th and February 14th. Once you hit December, it's getting a little bit late for those earlier deadlines, but it would still work for deadlines in January. So anyway, those are kind of the options coming up. The ones with asterisks by them mean that those are ones you have to register for through ACT.org. And also, even for the test that your student takes at JD, all test scores have to be ordered from ACT.org. We can't send test scores. They're not official coming from us. We just simply don't send test scores. They wouldn't be accepted by the colleges. So that is something that students have to do, or as a family you have to do, is you have to order the test scores if you want them submitted to the school where you want them sent. ACT will allow you to have, I can't remember, at least one, maybe more schools to send it to for free. But after that, you have to pay, I think it's $18 per school. So as I said, college is really expensive, and going out of state is even more expensive. So let's talk a little bit about ideas on how to pay for it. Again, I just brought up the FAFSA. We are having FAFSA night. Now, why do I have two different dates on this? I think it's the 16th. I will be putting it out there for sure. But either the 14th or the 16th, we're having FAFSA night here. I already mentioned that. It could be that if you're applying to an out-of-state private school, you'll be asked to fill out something called the CSS profile. It's basically the private school version of a FAFSA. It is a little bit, parents tell me, I did not fill it out when my son applied. But parents tell me it is a bit more involved than the FAFSA, but it is for private schools, so they have a whole different way of packaging students. They have endowments, and this is the application they use to determine how to package students. They may also require you to fill out the FAFSA as well. So typically, and I'll use the University of Utah as an example, typically your student will be put in the pool of students for merit-based scholarships, merit being based on academics, when they apply. So for example, with the U, when they consider your student's application, they also consider your student for merit-based scholarships. So that should be a part of the initial acceptance that you get. If you don't get it at the time of your acceptance, within a couple of weeks, you'll receive usually an email letting you know what type of merit-based scholarship they might have qualified for. And most in-state schools will work like that. Out-of-state schools, it's hit and miss as to whether they offer much in merit-based aid for out-of-state students. So that's a little bit, the answer to that is it depends on the school where you're applying. But typically, once a student is accepted, it opens up a list of scholarships that they can apply for, and some of them are specifically for out-of-state students, but they're a lot more competitive. Which leads me to, and I'm going to skip need-based scholarships, it leads me to the WUE, W-E, it's pronounced, or they say WUE, but it stands for Western Undergraduate Exchange. So this is a great way for students who really want to go out of state to do so in a more affordable way. It's basically an agreement between the Western states to offer discounted tuition for students in neighboring states. So it basically includes Montana, Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, Colorado, Arizona, all of our neighboring states. And the typical amount is you pay resident tuition plus 50%. So it's 1.5 times resident tuition. They all have different ways of determining whether you qualify for it, so you would just have to check with the school. I did leave, I put up a couple flyers that also has the code to get to the list of schools. There's probably 160 schools that participate. We used it for where my son went to college so that it was more affordable. So it can be a great way to go out of state in the West for less money. So that's one idea for paying for college. There's also need-based scholarships. These almost always require the FAFSA. It's based on financial need. And for example, at the University of Utah, one of their best scholarships is the For Utah Scholarship, and it is almost a full it's pretty much a full scholarship tuition waiver for students who meet a GPA of 3.3, but they also are Pell eligible. Pell Grant eligible is the highest need under FAFSA. So it can be, it can really be a great opportunity for students to go to college whose families, don't have the resources to send them. So most schools do have need-based scholarships, and also any student that qualifies for Pell Grants a lot of scholarships open up for them with that. So there's only one way to find out, and that's to complete the FAFSA. There are private scholarships out there. When you get into that area, you're kind of on your own out there looking for them on the internet. There's search engines, Going Merry, FastWeb, Big Future, and I have a list of them that students can come in and take a picture of on my door. There's also places like the Elks Club, the Rotary Club, credit unions offer scholarships. So and sometimes it's $1,000 to $2,000, $3,000. Not, it's not going to pay for the whole thing, but if you add it all together, it can help out. So those are kind of ones you have to look for on your own. I would say that even though AP and concurrent classes aren't considered scholarships, in the end, if your student takes multiple AP or concurrent enrollment classes, it's basically, a scholarship. You can start school. Many parents have told me with students who have completed the capstone diploma that with the number of AP classes that they took, it either takes care of a semester or almost the whole freshman year of requirements. So that's, that can be, $10,000, $15,000 right there. So I'd consider that a scholarship. So yeah, it's awesome if students do take those classes and are successful, because it's for free money, basically. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to mention. Yeah, I think having the conversation about it's always hard at home to have that conversation about money and being realistic about what you're willing to spend for, your child's college education. But it is an important conversation to have. That way, there aren't expectations that your student has that are not realistic in terms of what you can afford. Every year, tuition goes up, and it's just, are you getting the return on your investment? I mean, that's what it's all about. So those are important conversations to have. So a couple of Utah scholarships that I like are, the one is called the Opportunity Scholarship. It is not need-based, it's merit-based. So it's based on your student's performance, but you still have to fill out the FAFSA to get it. The criteria for the Opportunity Scholarship is that your student has to have taken a concurrent enrollment or an AP class in math, English, and science. Okay, just those 3 core subjects, one AP or concurrent enrollment class in math, English, and science. It opens up, what did I say? I'm not exactly sure when it opens up, but it does close. The deadline is on March 20th. It's got a great website, so you can just Google Opportunity Scholarship Utah, and it will come up and it'll show you everything that you need to have and do in order to qualify for that scholarship. It's $2,000 a year, and it's renewable, and the GPA requirement is a 3.3. So it can be, it can be a great scholarship, and it stacks. So let's say your student gets a scholarship at the U, great, and then they got the Opportunity Scholarship, they can add that to it, whereas some scholarships are not stackable. The Promise Grant, on the other hand, is a need-based grant. You have to be Pell eligible. That is the highest financial need under FAFSA. It covers the cost of attendance for 2 years. It can be used for room and board, which many scholarships cannot be. And it is also stackable. So that is something, to keep in mind if your family, if you meet that income requirement. So those are 2 Utah-based ones that are outside of the colleges. They're just through the Utah System of Higher Education. And the reason I talk a little bit more, I focus a little bit more on the U, is we do have quite a few students who go to the U. Probably 30% of our students go to the U, and every year I think we have 100 applicants and 80 students are admitted on average every year to the U. So we have a significant number of students that maybe at the beginning of the year they're saying, no, I'm never going to the U, but by the end of the year that's where they're going. So, and it's great. But the U does have a variety of scholarships. They have merit-based scholarships, and I'm about to show you how that's changed big time this year. That, again, is usually rolled or packaged when you get your acceptance or shortly after. You should know whether or not you get a merit-based scholarship. They have a new scholarship that started a couple years ago called the Concurrent Enrollment Scholarship. The requirements for that is if your student took 3 concurrent enrollment classes, so that's 9 credit hours of concurrent enrollment, that they can qualify for this. And it is, gosh, I think it's $2,000 or $3,000 a year, and you do have to meet an income requirement for that. It is both need-based and merit-based. And then the University of Utah's main need-based scholarship is called the For Utah, and you do have to be Pell Grant eligible for that, but it's a really good scholarship. And each year we have about 7 or 8 students that qualify for that. And it's as close as you can get to a full ride. So here is the University of Utah's new scholarship table structure, I should call it. What's happened, at least over the last 4 or 5 years that I've been doing this, is the University of Utah will say, well, our process for merit-based scholarships is more holistic. And so there was never a clear idea of how do you what is the criteria here? So it would kind of be, some students at a 3.8 would get a scholarship and some would not. And some students that had a 3.95 might get a scholarship and others would not. Or, so there was really no way to know for sure whether you were going to qualify for a scholarship. There was criteria that they were using that you simply didn't know about. Well, that has changed this year, and it's all very straightforward. They have this table, and you can kind of see where you might fit in terms of the scholarship. This is like 2 weeks old. So it was news to me up until a week ago. And yeah, so take a picture. It's also on their website. It is it is based on the unweighted GPA at the time of your application. So it would be good to apply to the University of Utah for the priority deadline of December 1, and it will be based on your junior year, end of junior year grades. So that's the GPA that they will be taking if you apply by December 1. And that is actually the scholarship application deadline anyway. So last year, the highest award I've seen them give, like our Val and Sal, has been $8,000. So they've really increased the 4.0 scholarship is at $10,000. Tuition at the U, I think, is at about $12,000 now. So, that covers a lot of the tuition, and then you'd have to come up with room and board. And then you can kind of see how it goes down from there. But I think the good news is even starting at a 3.5, they're offering scholarship money. So, yeah, this is good news. So another thing that this year, and this is new information to the students, because when I went into their English classes, I told them that I would have the final deciles ready to go by this week, and we've made a decision that we won't be publishing deciles this year. There was just a lot of discussion around, is it really going to benefit our students? And for now, we're not doing that. We're not publishing it. So hang on a sec. So the GPA will stand as, their unweighted GPA, and the way that they should, and we do not rank. So this is the way that they should fill out their Common App. This is actually a screenshot from the Common App, and I'm showing it so that students know how to fill it out. And I'll be sending it out to all the students too. So, did you have a question for me? Deciles. Okay, so the decile, it's not a way of ranking, but it's a way of designating where a student falls in 10% increments in their class. So you get like top 10%, top 20%, top 30%, yeah. And so there's been a lot of discussion. It didn't seem to be a benefit to our students. So.
What does it mean, the GPA weighted versus unweighted?
Unweighted means that we are not giving additional points for AP, concurrent enrollment, or honors classes. Yeah.
Can you kind of explain how when we don't do weighted, but the colleges do, how does that work? We submit the unweighted, but they may go through and calculate it.
Exactly. So as many high schools as there are in their country is almost as many different ways of doing GPAs and weighting and also ranking. So there's deciles, there's quartiles, there's quintiles, and then there's ranking, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so because there is so much variability in how high schools do things, colleges have to have a way of leveling the playing field. And one way they do that is by the school's profile and seeing how exactly, what is our grading scale? What are our AP offerings? What the student here, have they taken advantage, what kind of rigor have they had in their schedule? And some schools actually do recalculate it, by running it through a recalculation. The California schools do that. So did that kind of answer your question? I mean, every time you ask a college that, they will say, we are able to, to make it fair to all students, whether they weight, whether they don't weight, whether they use deciles, whether they don't use deciles. It seems to me, from what I've looked at, is that most schools do not use a decile type of system like we do. It's more common to weight GPAs, but plenty of schools don't. It is under review. We are discussing it, but for this year, the fair thing to do is to not publish a decile. If sometimes some of the military academies will be really pushed for something more specific, and so on a case-by-case basis, we may do that when asked specifically by a institution. So final tips for success in the college application process is students, I can't stress this enough, is making sure Naviance is up to date. I only know what's in Naviance. I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know if you've changed your mind. I only know what I see in there, and I only know the deadline. So if the deadline is wrong, if you've accidentally chosen, I'm applying regular decision, but you meant early action, I'm not going to know that, so I'm not going to be sending your transcript at the right time. So you have to keep it up to date if you want me to be able to do my job the way it needs to be done. Complete the Common App and your essay. Get that done. And parents, you may not know this, but we do have college reps that come on campus to visit with our students. Just today, we had Gonzaga here as well as Grand Canyon University in Arizona. But each week, we get more and more and more. We have Princeton is coming, Stanford is coming, Boston University is coming. So we get some really top-notch, University of Chicago. So we get some really impressive schools coming here to meet with students, and we have a number of our really top-notch state schools. So I encourage your students all the time to take advantage of that. We have schools come and only 2 students sign up, which always makes me feel really bad. So, and even if you're not interested, it's a great way to hear what a different school has to say, maybe find out about a place that you hadn't even thought of before. So really encourage the students to attend college rep visits. It's the next best thing to visiting a college in person. The next step, too, is to schedule an individual college planning meeting with me. The difference between what we're doing tonight and that is actually we pull up your students' list of schools in Naviance. We go through them one by one and make sure everything is correct. We talk about what the next steps are, who does what the student needs to do, what I need to do, and answer any other questions you may have. It's usually about an hour-long meeting, and it's your opportunity to ask all the questions that you need to ask. It's really important to keep track of the deadlines. That's another reason to keep a spreadsheet. It helps you track, especially if you're applying to more than 5 schools, to track what the deadlines are and all the other information that might be needed. When it asks for a teacher letter of recommendation, and I think this is really important to keep in mind, it's important to choose a teacher that can speak to your academics. That's what colleges are looking for in a teacher recommendation. So give that some thought. You want to find a teacher that knows you well and knows how you are as a student. So that would be the advice I would give you in terms of finding teacher recommendations. There occasionally are schools that ask for a counselor recommendation, and that's me. Sometimes Ms. Sewell writes them, sometimes I write them, whatever you feel most comfortable with, but we both have student information forms that we want the students to fill out so that we have all of the information about all of the things that they've done to be able to include in the letter. So do know that a counselor recommendation is occasionally asked for, and that is something that we do. We just need notice as well, and we need you to fill out. And then there's a parent form too, because often what the parents say is just as helpful as what the students say for a letter as well. Please, as close to 30 days as you can. Maybe I don't need as much, but the teachers really appreciate that. And again, completing the FAFSA starting October 1. finally, the RMACAC College Fair, and again, I put flyers up all over, is a really great way to get started. And again, it's a great way to visit colleges without ever leaving the state. But if you can visit colleges that you really are thinking about, that's a great way to show interest and to really find out the specifics of what that school is looking for. We do allow students to miss 2 days a quarter, school excused, or I should say college visit excused, so you can take advantage of that. I know it's hard to miss school for any reason, but do know that we support students going into colleges and visiting as they can. And I did want to, in sum, I did want to touch on the out-of-state situation. You know, I find that every year it seems like there's a group of about 10 schools that are out of state that all our students want to apply to. And I'm not exactly sure if that's just the nature of students talking amongst themselves and deciding, oh, this sounds really great, we all want to go here. But the nature of out-of-state college admissions has changed a bit, and there are, a number of schools that students talk about attending that have actually become quite selective, that may not have been nearly this selective, even 5 or 10 years ago. So these are schools that have had huge increases in their number of applicants, and therefore their admission rates have gone way down. We're talking schools like UC Berkeley, UCLA, which also had a cap put on the number of out-of-state applicants anyway that they'll admit. University of Michigan, way more selective than it used to be. University of North Carolina, University of Virginia, Texas A&M, Texas Christian, USC, UW, all are way more competitive than over the last few years. You read each year their number of applicants just shoots way up, and they don't have that many more spots. So just know that really there are almost 6,000 colleges and universities in the U.S., and the vast majority are not selective, meaning that they have an acceptance rate greater than 65%. There's only less than 30 colleges that have that are highly selective with an admission rate below 10%. So my point here is that focusing more on what is a good fit is more important than, where is everyone else going, or what are the best schools, and reading every U.S. News and World Report about the top 10 schools. There are many excellent colleges out there. So don't let something, don't miss out on an opportunity for a school because you don't think it's quite good enough, or it didn't make the list of the top 20 schools, because there's a certain amount of other factors that go into that kind of skew the results of those. So again, focusing on the best fit for your student and for your family, I think is where where to start, and then kind of determining which schools fall into that. Okay, I think that covers, let's see, everything I wanted to talk about. I'm wondering if anyone has, I'll stay and answer individual questions, but if you have a question for, that you'd like to ask right now, is fine. What questions do you have for me? Yeah. Oh, yeah, good question. I will put out a link to my Google Calendar for to parents and students. So don't both of you schedule one, but get together and schedule one appointment, and that should go out hopefully tomorrow, if not tomorrow, Saturday. I'm out of town next week at a college admissions conference, but they will start then the week after that. I would request that if your deadlines for college applications are mainly December 1st and before, I'd like to meet with you more sooner than later. But if you're not thinking of, applying till, say, January on, maybe wait a little bit later in the fall to make the appointment, just so that I can fit people in on on the basis of when their applications are due. What other questions do you have? Yeah.
If students apply before the second ACT test in October, do they automatically get updated, or how does that work relative to when you submit your application?
So
For
when it,
example, at University
okay.
of Florida,
Yeah.
they will super score
Okay.
ACT. So say you did amazing on one test, second time, without all of the logistical issues in the school.
Yeah.
They do amazing in another category, and they'll super score it.
Yeah.
But the question is, do you wait to get those results, or does it automatically get updated
No,
once the application's out?
yeah, no, I would wait, and the ACT now has a super score that you can order. There's like when I looked when my son went on, there was a thing where you could hit super score and send that. So I would wait till the best score is in there and send the super score.
So we're talking like first week of November, second week of November is when we'll get that.
Probably from the October 14th test. Yeah, I mean, it could be right at the end of October too, fingers crossed. Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of test scores come back within a couple of weeks.
Is the paper slower or no?
I don't think so. Mm-mm. No. Did that make sense? My
Yes,
answer.
but it sounds like you have to wait till all the information's available before, not do the first set of applications and then update later.
I think you can go ahead and send the application in, and then just send the score when you get the score that you are wanting to send.
So they can be separate.
Yeah, yes, they can be sent separately. Yeah, I mean, you can indicate that you're going to submit a score, and then the score may follow in a couple of weeks. Yeah. Well, I thank you all for coming, and I'll stick around in case you want to ask me something.